Hey guys, Kanadist here. It's been a long time coming. I feel like I've been gone way too long. The problem is really that grad school is taking up so much of my time, and I didn't think it was going to be that time intensive. So if there are any students here right now, I feel your pain, and I'm going through it with you. But I'm going to try and be a little bit more regular with these videos. I'm not sure how regular that would be. Maybe even just once every few months would be nice. I don't want to take a full year hiatus again. It was very stressful first starting out, but I think I'm getting adjusted to it. But only time will tell. So for now, I apologize for that. And there's a lot of requests to get through. A lot of you had some really good ideas. Some people said they wanted a Frost theme. Some people wanted more character-based themes based on personality. And some people even said I should stream live. And all of these I am not opposed to. I really want to do this. It's just finding the window to do it. That's the tricky part. So until then, I didn't want to be just not uploading anything. That's not what I want to do. Like, that's terrible. But I could continue by putting up this sub-boss theme that I've been working on. It's actually almost finished. I think it's ready to be wrapped up. And it's, even though it says it's 4 minutes long, it's really not. It's like a trick almost, because the song ends really at 1 minute and 48 seconds, where we have the loop here. But all I did was copy and pasted the whole first section here, all the way on the right, and I added a little bit of variation toward the end of the song and the hook, just to lead into this guitar solo here, and a little bit of a solo that we don't have in the first half of the song, which really gives us more variation. This is not mandatory by any means, it's optional. It's completely optional, but it could add a lot more depth to your track. I would recommend it, So without even talking your ear off, let's start playing the first half of the first 2 minutes of the song, so you can kind of see what this is about, what kind of feel I'm going for here. Alright, now that that's out of the way, we can talk about breaking this down a little bit, which is always the fun part. If you've seen any of my last tutorials, you know that I'm about simplicity over anything. A lot of the time, sometimes, I don't know, maybe us as musicians, we feel like we should throw all our best instruments in there and all our best sounds in every situation and in every track. I don't like to do that. My work is really, really simplified, and I think it works better for me. If it's not your method of working, that's fine. But I don't know, sometimes I just think that, if you have maybe 5 to 6 instruments and maybe 7 that are working very well and there's synergy there, don't fight that. Let it be. There's no reason why we should this unnecessarily add more instruments that could possibly create clutter and muddiness to our track if it's already working just fine. I think if a story is being told and it's being told well and a few instrumentation choices, fine. let it be. Don't fight it. Let it happen. Don't stress it. Don't compare your work to someone else. If it's working and you feel it, if it's a gut instinct and it's telling you, hey, this is going very well, let it happen. And I started to find that in this guitar pattern here, which I'll highlight. And look at this one riff. Look at that. This one riff lasted 30 seconds about a song, and I didn't do anything, but I just put it back to back. Let me highlight it here so you can see. It's really simple as well. Let's play it so you can hear how it sounds. And that lasted all the way here. You know, that's, like I said, about 30 seconds of song. That guitar actually came from Omnisphere as well. Honestly, Omnisphere has some really good sounds out of the box. I didn't look at this. If you can see, I barely added any delay at all, and you know, it came with a lot of reverb already, so I didn't add that much reverb either. But it had a really heavy chugging sound in the mid area, so I kind of I dipped it a lot here. It was just too much for me. I thought it was a little bit too distracting, so I just took a big dip there and scooped it out. But honestly, on its own, it sounds great. But to add more movement, so this is not boring to the listener, what do? You add a bass line, drums, and vocals or a pad. But to be honest, even if you were to take out the bass line, let's take that out, and leave the drums and the guitar, right, and this little pad, what happens is you create atmosphere. So what I want to stress is, don't worry about creating instruments or adding instruments to it just because, but instead add atmosphere. It goes a long way. So now we can hear how that sounds with everything happening at the same time, minus the bass. Nothing has even really happened yet at this point in time, but we can kind of see where it's going, and that's what I really want to stress in this quick scenario here. So let's keep it moving now. Now that we have 3 instruments going that are creating a sense of atmosphere and movement, this is when things start to get really easy. I feel like at this point, now we're just filling in the gaps. So the next gap I filled in were the strings. So this is before the lead ever comes in. I think honestly, getting the leads are the easiest part once everything else is in motion. We can actually go ahead and turn the crashes on as well, as I have crash, etc. A lot of etc. instruments here. Crashes are really good because they just signify when the next movement is about to happen, right? So these are, you know, they're autopilot. We know where these go. When the next beat is about to drop, you put these down. Now the strings, I'm going to highlight them for a second because normally I would never use this kind of weird combination of chords, but they happen to work well with the bass line, and it added a really, like, I don't know, sinister feel to me. And I can play that here. Yeah, I think normally it sounds weird just on its own, but I felt with everything happening, which was the guitar, the bass, the drums, and these awesome things here, the pads, which I love, there's a nice sense of, oh wow, this is pretty serious. It's a step up, more than a random battle theme, not quite a boss, not quite a last boss, but something about in the middle. Maybe an enemy that's going to drop a rarer item. You might find like a few of these in the field, whatever the case may be for what kind of environment you're trying to tell to the listener. Now, this is fun because everything stays the same, right? The guitar, we already discussed that. That's not going anywhere. It's stuck in its pattern. That riff is going to carry you. The drums are at a normal pacing, kick snare, kick snare, kick snare type of pattern, really basic and straightforward, no complications there. The bass line gets a little funky, but as long as it's in the same key as the riff, the riff that you use, which I think I was in the key of E the most of in this song. So as long as you kind of play around with the key of E, don't jump out all around the place, you know, keep it simple. So we're gonna play this and start from this section here, and then we can really feel where the song starts to pick up, because this is still the intro, right? We have the guitar doing what it's supposed to be doing, the drums are doing what it's supposed to be doing without much variation. We just want to add that movement. And the bass is going to do that, and the strings are going to do that. I'm going to mute, the lead, so we can hear that without the lead in itself. Now, you see how that kind of, I feel like this all works so well even without the lead. And that's how you know when it's working. Because on its own, this doesn't sound bad at all, at least to me, right? I think, well, we all know that a song does need a lead instrument at a certain point, right? To give it some character and give it that uniqueness. But if it's working well and you don't have a lead instrument, that's perfect. Because now, when it's time to actually make your leading synths, your job got so much easier. Everything else is in motion. It's working well with each other. The synergy is there, and this is why this part was so easy for me, because all it is like a little bit of trial and error. And as well, like I said, I stayed in the key of E and played around in that key. And I'm gonna mute everything else and just play the synth. Now that synth was aggressive enough and did its part that led us right into this main melody section here. Now, this section it was actually fun, but it didn't get too complicated by any means. In fact, I'm gonna mute the lead and I'm gonna mute the chord plucks that I have here and see if everything else holds up. If it does, then we can fill in anything we want here that's in the key of E, and it will work. As long as it follows the riff that you had with the guitar, and the guitar is still in the key of E, it's gonna happen smoothly, and it will make sense. Your song will make sense. So if we go into the guitar pattern 2, and see how it's slightly contrasts to the first one. It's still aggressive, but not too much so. Yeah, so it's got that aggressive feel, but it's not as heavy, right? What I did to create that feeling of depth and more motion was to add these heavy strings here. Even though they say heavy, they're more light, but what they do is they create more atmosphere, and it really sets the mood for what's happening. There's a lot of emotion in these strings, and that combined with the guitar and the drums, which are still going at their kick snare tempo, this is really on autopilot. Even though it may say drum 7, drum 8, drum 7, drum 9, there are very minimal changes in there. That main rhythm stays the same. Maybe I've changed a couple of hat patterns, a few cymbals. As long as the drums sound good, and these came from Contact, I believe the Garage kit, which is really good. It comes with Contact 9. You'll be fine. You know, I don't think this is even the least bit of your worries. So once you have your riff going, right, your guitar is doing what it's supposed to be doing, your drums are fine, your bass is still in the key of E. Keep your bass in the key of E, and you'll be fine as well. As long as it syncs up with that, it's going to make sense at the same time. And then, if I were to play the section, right, without even having a lead, this should still make sense on its own. Now that the last section is making sense, and we know that you can put in anything you want for the leading instrument as long as you're in the key of E, then we can move on to the breakdown. The breakdowns are fun to me. They're not too long or ridiculously complicated by any means. In fact, a trick that I use to making decent breakdowns is just to remove the most counted on instrument up until this point. So as if you can look behind us, you know, we've got guitar, 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 right? This whole thing was saturated with guitar. So we take it out. We take it out right here. And what that does is at this 56 seconds, when it's finally gone, because we've been counting on that guitar so much for that aggression, that emotion is now gone. So it's more or less giving the player the idea of, you know, they're slowing down, they get to catch their breath a little bit, things are calming down slightly. You're not out of danger yet, but you can relax for a quick second. And this is what you want to show, right? You take out the guitar, you slow down your percussion, and you'll be fine. I'm going to play this section here so you can see how that sounds, right? And the main thing is, you know, this is not a section you want to spend too much time on. I don't think it's well, it's always depending, right? It's always a matter of what type of genre you're working with. But you really just want to throw it right into the hook. So let's play this section here. And that's it. It's a quick 1, 2, 3, and then this is where you have to end strong, which we'll get into right now. So now we're closing in on the finale. So how do we do that? The last section really needs to have the most dramatic pull. One thing I do is usually add one instrument that's very powerful, either it has a lot of body or mass to it, and then I use that instrument for only this section. In fact, I don't think I've ever put it anywhere else. No, I didn't. I hadn't put it anywhere else in the song, so this is the first time the players are going to hear it, which is perfect, right? They've never heard this before, and this is the choir here, which is, I have it as Kyrie. But it's a very strong, I mean, I think if you want vocals, definitely check out Omnisphere. It's really strong for that. This sets everything in motion. I already muted the leads here, so we're going to play this section with just this choir playing in the background. I'm going to even mute, actually I'll unmute this one. Yeah, I'll unmute this one. I'll leave this one unmuted because you can hear it without it, and you can hear it with. So basically now this choir is going to pull everything together because we've heard the guitars before. Our player is conditioned to that. The player is conditioned to our drums and our bass. This shakes it up. So let's play it now. Now, I think I always like to mute these now because I think this might be a little bit distracting if I have my leads in there. Basically, this is going to be anything you want it to be. I think leads are the easiest part of the songwriting process. I think it's best not to start with them, but to end with them because there's so much room. Now that we know that we've already been playing in the key of E this whole way through, anything in that key for your lead will make sense. So I think this is best to leave to the imagination. So the song is done at this point. It loops here at about 1 minute and 48 seconds. And this is where the rest of it comes from. I just copied everything and pasted it right over that, you know, and that's it. However, for fun, this is optional. You can add a little bit of variation in the second half of the song, which could make for an interesting track. I didn't do too much. In fact, in the hook and climax portion that you've just recently heard, the only thing I've done, I've changed the bass line slightly here in bass 11 and here in bass 12 and left everything almost the same, but I added a solo at the end of it. And the solo, you know, this is just for fun, really just for imaginative purposes. It's not at all mandatory, but it could make a song that much better. But that I'll play fully in its entirety here. And I'll even add my weird lead that I picked out here. Thanks for watching the video, guys. That was Born Soldier. It was originally made for an indie game in development called Keeper and the Soldier. I wish I could be with my team. They're now in GDC, and I'm over here stuck in New York City watching them from afar, but honestly, we're working really hard. If indie games are your thing and you want to check out our progress as a team, I'll put our links down below. And also, if you have any feedback, if you have any criticism, if you want me to do more of these, also, just let me know. I'm open to all ideas. I have a little bit more free time. I don't want to make any strict promises, but I am going to try and be more consistent with these. Alright guys, take care and cheers.